Banking Matters. I'm your host, Roger Morris. Today on the podcast, I'm pleased to welcome Christopher LeBato. Christopher is the president and CEO of MC Bank, which is headquartered in Morgan City, Louisiana, and has 10 banking centers and offices within the state. Prior to MC Bank, he worked for Iberia Bank, now First Horizon Bank, for 10 years, where he served as the retail and business banking executive overseeing operations in 3 states. Before that, he began his career at AmSouth, now Regions Bank, in Birmingham, Alabama. Christopher holds a degree in business administration from Spring Hill College and is a graduate of the Pacific Coast Banking School. Christopher is active in the New Orleans community, where he is involved in a number of charitable and professional organizations. Christopher, we're pleased to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Roger. I appreciate you having me come, and you can just call me Chris for short.
Chris, sure thing. Yeah, we're excited to have you on, Chris. So the way we always start off is asking our guests how they got involved initially in banking.
So obviously I never went to school or dreamed of being a banker, that's for sure. But I went to college in Mobile, couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do, went into business, and then worked at a kids camp out in Wyoming for 7 summers, and ended up staying out there. Was all planning to come back home and work for a property manager in the real estate development area. Katrina hit, and so I had to pivot, and was actually working for an investor in Birmingham, Alabama. Was at an auction for a house and outbid who was a guy that was the state president for a local bank there. Looked at me and said, "Who's this punk kid? Whose money are you using?" Took me to lunch and hired me on the spot. So really fell into it and got lucky to land at the bank at that time.
Well, it's funny how the banking industry draws people in. I feel like almost every guest we have on says they had no intention of coming into banking, and yet we're all here. And I'm the same case as well, and we're here talking about banking.
Yep.
I read in your bio that you have a background working at a number of different banks of all different sizes, and we wanted to talk about banks and how they differ depending on how big they are, from the community banks to the regional banks to the big banks. So maybe we can start with a high level breakdown. What are your experiences and differences, and how do those experiences change as you went to different banks?
Yeah, look, looking back, starting at a bank that was roughly 45 billion and grew. I think when we sold at 54 to jumping to regions was like 120 or something. It was a very entrepreneurial setting when I first started. Also, I'm a very creative person. I've lacked structure and always have. But walking into that bank that really felt like a community bank the way they did it, but I was also in the headquarters city there in Birmingham. From there, went to Iberia Bank, which was a smaller bank. I think we were 8 billion when I first started there, and by the time it was sold at 33, I had 11 good years to really see how it works and get the inner workings and really understand. And now working for a small community bank, I think we're 450 today-ish million. It's very different, but the premise is the same, right? Our goal is to help our communities, help our associates, and really help the customers move on. But in reality, it's been a very eye-opening experience to see. And I'll be honest, I'm glad I started at a bigger bank that had a great training program and had all the bells and whistles, especially back when banks did management training programs. At the end of the day.
Gotcha. Well, there's a lot of commonality. I mean, the purpose ultimately is to make money, right, and serve your clients. But how have you seen the purpose change as you get to a larger institution?
Yeah, look, I think everybody has a place, right? All these banks, the big banks, the small banks, and again, the community banks all have their place in what we're doing. I'll start with what I see today, because I'm in it day to day, right? Being in a smaller bank, it's much more entrepreneurial, which suits me and kind of my personality and what I want to do. You wear a lot of hats, right? I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the president, I'm the head light bulb changer. You do what you got to do. I'm sitting in one of our offices that's brand new, kind of getting renovated, and you go where you're needed, and everybody on the team has to do that. And you really need, I think it's important to build an entrepreneurial team to where everybody has that mindset. Obviously, we're all relationship driven. You hear it all the time. Bank, what's your number one thing? Oh, it's our customer service is great. Well, in the community banks, we can't really make mistakes like the bigger banks. Our front door and back door are extremely important. And I'm not saying that the bigger banks aren't, but when they lose one or two clients, or every 5 years when a business customer comes and they just don't want to play the rate game, they can let them go because they know they have more people coming in. Whereas with us, we really got to be a lot more intentional and hyper focused on what the client needs. I think from a small bank standpoint, and at least the bank that we're trying to build is a very outward looking bank. So, and I say outward focused, a lot of banks and bigger banks get set in their ways for a long time. And if you are Joe and this is your department, this is your policies and procedures, if you retire, you get moved on, you get promoted, you get somewhere else, Sally comes in and they're going to do the exact same thing because that's how it's always been done. And I think you get trapped a little bit. Whereas here, if we do that, we get crushed. And some small banks do, and it's hurting. I think that's why you see so much M&A in the space. Right. But we're taking an outward look approach so that we aren't just focused on what our products are and marketing our products, but we are really looking what do the folks that we are servicing actually need, and having a variety or not stuffing people in different products or packages, but really offering and giving them exactly what they want rather than some of the packages the bigger banks have. And they're more inward focused, where they're putting they're focused on their products and marketing their products, whereas we have to be a little bit differently and go the opposite direction.
Gotcha. Well, undoubtedly, as you scale up, your market has to change, and how you think about your market changes. So, as you grow, how do you think about your market differently? Is your servicing of your market different? How do you think about it?
Yeah, no, look, as we grow, because I've never met somebody in executive management that said our bank is the right size. It's always too small. The bigger we get, the better we get. And I think there's some truth to that, but also, again, we all have our places to play. And so what I look at it is the market and again, that outward approach of who I want to target. We're very hyper-focused on being a small business bank and are working with small business owners. Those people that know how to make something or know how to serve something or own a retail shop or a mom and pop store. They're not going to be the best financial advisor. They're not going to be the best marketing, or they don't necessarily know how to all the gimmicks of SEO and marketing on the internet and things like that. And so our bank is very focused on building product sets and giving them kind of a breadth of things and have advice for them that they can come in and work. And so when I look at markets, I look at the need, right? We had an office in downtown New Orleans, and we're not a downtown bank, right? We're more of a rural community bank. We're kind of in the neighborhoods of the surrounding areas in New Orleans, and that's where we fit because that's where those little mom and pop businesses are, and that's really what we're going after and what we're trying to tackle. And as we start expanding, you can do that organically, which we have. We've gone into 2 new markets since I've taken over. And that is looking at demographics and trying to figure out where you want to go and why, and looking at the density of small businesses for us. And then the M&A side, it's looking for cultures that are very similar. And I think a lot of the small community banks, yes, we're all focused on customers, but the culture on the inside, if it has that entrepreneurial feel, that has people that want to go out and get it and understand you're going to wear multiple hats and have to do a bunch of different things, those are the kind of the factors that I look forward on the front end, because I think that culture piece is the most important piece as you grow.
Gotcha. Well, you mentioned, you're primarily a rural bank. You had some presence in downtown New Orleans. As you get larger, do you feel pressure to expand into more urban areas? Or is it hard to balance expansion with staying true to who you think you currently are and your current strengths?
Yeah, no, I say we are in New Orleans, so it's not that we're not in the market. We're just not in the space, right? We want to be convenient for the customers that we go for. But yes, as we grow, we're going to have to be convenient. I do think there's a convenience factor. I started as a teller, I guess, 18 years ago, and I believe in the retail side. I believe those branches are important. Do we have to have 1,000 of them and scattered the Starbucks model? No. Sure. They just need to be convenient enough. I think technology really is the future. And again, small banks, it's a lot harder because I'm not necessarily, I don't have the $1 billion that the big boys have to play with on an annual basis to invest in technology and buy up fintech companies and buy up all the stuff that we're looking to try to partner with. But as technology gets a little bit better, and again, that hyper focus of what people want, technology is kind of the next step, and we have to have that. But we also need that personal person that can drive around and meet you where your business are, because those are the clients. I say it all the time. Clients that want to talk to bankers, I'm a perfect bank. If you don't want to talk to your banker and you want to do everything online, then go to these guys. It's probably better for you.
Gotcha. Well, I think a large part of our listening audience is compliance professionals. I want to talk for a second about compliance. So, how have you noticed compliance and how you approach compliance change as you've scaled, up and down throughout your career?
Yeah, no, the compliance is the most important thing we have. I mean, my job is to protect our charter and protect our capital, and it all starts with that safety net that they've put in place for us. So it's very important. Again, when I started this bank, we had 3 different people. That one was our BSA officer, our CRA officer, and our compliance officer, right? And everybody did other jobs as well, and so nobody was truly laser focused on it. And as we continue to go, and we've done a great job. Like over the years, we've been doing very well. But as we continue to grow and get bigger and look at expanding and M&A and other things, I knew it was very important. So we did consolidate that down to where we do have one person that is just head of all compliance that reports directly to the board for their job. And I'm a firm believer in dual control on every aspect, and I don't even want to have access to make really any decisions without somebody checking me. And so adding that level, that was kind of the last level that we did over the last 2.5 years to add in there to where we added this compliance officer. Looking at all the new laws and things like that, it is obviously a heavier lift than it has been, and will likely continue to grow. And so making sure that we do have the capabilities of doing that. I will say, again, working with Compliance Alliance has been fantastic because it does give us the expertise that we've needed. And whenever you need to make a phone call, and the fact that y'all have lawyers available and everybody else, it's been pretty helpful to us for sure. But now we have that one direct connect internally, and we have that one outside source that is kind of the education on for us. So.
Sure. And then to just talk compliance for another second, maybe pause from the bank discussion here, just because a lot of times when we interview people, they are compliance professionals. They're not necessarily in the C-suite like you are. So what are the things on the compliance side that you're thinking about currently? What are your biggest
1071, 1033, like all the different stuff that's coming down the pipe of how are we going to accurately do it? Like, I think, one of the things, I started about 2.5 years ago at this bank. So one of the things I did is looked at all our contracts. All our contracts were signed between early 90s. And so, it's been a lot of time in there. And so being able to renegotiate those contracts with the big guys and the people we rely on, our core processor is somebody that you deeply rely on to make sure that you can be compliant and get the reports needed and understand what it is. That's been my biggest challenge. And as I look forward and see what could come down the pipe or what they want to put down the pipe, and having the accessibility without pulling out the old Excel spreadsheet again. And, there's got to be better ways for our teams, but I'm worried about that. I'm worried about, again, fair lending and CRA are important, extremely important things for us to continue to keep top of mind. And I would never want a compliance issue to be the thing that holds us up, right? It's a scorecard that I use to judge him, the guy that, our compliance director, to make sure that he is doing what he's supposed to do, but also keeping us in a healthy spot and that we continue to grow.
Gotcha. Well, I guess to pivot back to our bank discussion here, I want to talk for a second about just customer service. As you grow, how do you think about customer service? I guess kind of the average customer out there would say, well, as a bank grows, they probably care less and less about me individually. I guess that is true to a certain extent. We talked about the big banks, but how are you thinking about customer service as you grow?
Yeah, no, look, it's the most important part, and training is definitely a piece of it. One of the things, if you noticed, emergenetics is something that's kind of near and dear to me. And it's essentially somewhat of a personality profile that we give to all our associates. And it really is a communication tool that we use internally to know that, Chris is a very conceptual, high-level analytical thinker. So if you start getting very into the weeds and try to put him in a structured box, he probably won't listen. And then vice versa. I need people on my teams that are structured so I can get things done. And so we've used it to really take a holistic look at hiring and firing. If I just hire a bunch of people that look exactly like me and think exactly like me, it's not going to work. And so having a diverse, cognitively diverse team is really important. And I think that has helped our team work through a lot of the issues of taking a very small rural bank that was doing really well to kind of trying to bring us up the post. I often say, we've gone from 1970 to about 2011. We still got plenty of room to go, but it's putting that cognitively diverse team together that thinks outside the box. The customer service side, it's also about empowering our people to do what they do. One of the things in this bank, some banks are very tight in the way that what accesses they allow their tellers to do, or their universal bankers, or you name the job or role. We've opened up a lot of that, and we're putting security measures on the back end, right? So that outward looking view of products and clients, we're taking that outward look of our associates as well. And so what do our teams need? What do our associates need to be successful? And as a management team, I say this to my team all the time: what are those tools? And let's go find them and either buy them or build them, because that's going to give them the entrepreneurial side. That's going to give them ownership, and hopefully make them feel and be happy to ride for the brand of MC Bank.
Gotcha. Well, I wanted to take a second too and just ask about, I guess, risk more generally. You've touched on this. You've talked about, MMA and a few other things, the compliance risks. But what you see are the biggest risks right now for community banks? What are the things that keep you up at night?
A lot, right? I mean, what's interesting in my last job, I think I managed 700 plus people. But managing the 90 people we have today has been more stressful than anything in my life, because every decision I make is really, it's dependent on them and their families and their clients and their families and their businesses. So it's been tough. There's a lot of stuff that keeps me up. I think economic issues and where we are in the market. It's a very interesting market. I'm obviously not that old, and as my previous mentor said, I've never really been through a bunch of the spilled milk scenarios of the past, because I started, I guess, right before in 2006, so right before 2008, and
Sure.
We are in a very unique situation from what the Fed is doing, with the interest rate environment, with the QA and QE, really following the money, and seeing how they've built it up and they're bringing it back down, and how that affects all sorts of functions. That keeps me up. I think competition also does too, as margins get thinner and people expect more. That always hurts. I think looking at technology, I am running towards a lot of stuff that people are running away from, just because I think it's really important to learn about what's next. The AI side it's coming, it's here. We use pieces of it. We've got to get comfortable with that and figure out a way to do it. And do we, from a regulatory standpoint, are we going to be able to keep up as fast as it's coming? Because we really are kind of much more behind the eight ball on the AI side from a risk standpoint than anything else. I'll be honest. I think credit unions coming on the market and buying banks and really playing on a different playing field without the same balance sheet and income statement and tax liability is challenging, because it is coming in. They are doing things and going into that commercial space that they technically haven't played in. So my competition is growing. And then again, making sure, I think one of the things of being a leader is, my goal is to keep our team happy and enjoying to work here. And it is a stressful place. And so do we have, we ask what are all the tools, but are we really giving them everything they need? And I genuinely care that we do.
Gotcha. Well, looks like we're approaching the end of our time here, but I always like to end by asking, what piece of parting advice do you have for our listeners?
That's a good question. So I guess my piece of advice for everybody in general is that, we make a living by what we get, and we make a life by what we give. It's a Winston Churchill quote that has been following me since I was young. And I think it really is, you've got to go back to realize why we're here, and giving back to the communities, giving back to our people, and giving back to what we do really is what makes and brings joy to my life. And I've seen others do the same, and everybody that I really respect, that they're really good at that giving side. From a banking perspective, from a quote, I would say, don't ignore the art in banking. I do think it's still an art. I do think it's a professional realm. It's not just a normal retail thing where you can pull off the shelf and open an app and do it. I think you, as somebody in banking and everybody that's a teller to a CEO, I think keeping the art in it and really understanding what we do and why we do it is important. And getting creative with your customers, getting creative with your associates will continue to keep our industry healthy.
Gotcha. Well, I couldn't agree more. Wise words. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on today and taking the time to talk with me. And for everyone else, that's Banking Matters.
Thank you.